Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Empower Series Online. My name is Clifton Johnson. I'm the founder of the Empower Series, and we are a 501c3 organization that is brought to you by Comerica Bank, AE Media Group, and your generous donations. So thank you. Today's guest is with the Small Business Administration. And I know that if you tuned in before, we did a program with Mr. Herbert Austin, which is the district director of the Small Business Administration for the Dallas-Fort Worth district. And now we have another representative on to do part two, because there's a lot of questions that we just couldn't answer, but you're going to get your answers today. So we've got Ahmad Goree. He is the Economic Development Specialist at the Dallas-Fort Worth District Office. He's also the Public Information Officer at that branch as well. And he's going to answer all of the detailed questions that we couldn't get an opportunity to answer before, plus just a bunch of wealth of information that's going to be very beneficial for all of us to really make sure that we're taking advantage of the resources that are available for us during this pandemic time. So without any further ado, Ahmad, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Clifton, for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. This is a trying time for small businesses, and they are really having a hard time deciding how they're going to keep their businesses afloat during this time, and most importantly, how they're going to keep their employees on payroll. So hopefully this information that I provide will be helpful and give some type of comfort level to small business owners who are seeking some assistance in helping them get over this hurdle.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I want to thank you for spending the time to come on the show and, like you said, give some valuable information so that small business owners can take advantage of the resources that are available. And I would tell you that even though the different states and cities are opening up slowly, these resources are critically needed. So to give this show some structure, there's three things that we talked about that we want to cover. We want to talk about the different programs that are available. Number one is the EIDL loan, right? You can talk about the longer name, but it's the EIDL loan that's available. We're going to talk about the PPP program. And then we're going to talk about just the existing resources that the Small Business Administration has available that you can tap into and take advantage of. So the first thing I want to do, Ahmad, is let you kind of talk about, from a background standpoint, the Small Business Administration, what you guys do consistently, not just because of this pandemic, but the resources that are out there all the time, and then take us through the different programs that are specifically for this pandemic era.
Sure. Clifton, we are very fortunate to be U.S. citizens to have an agency, a federal agency at that's dedicated towards small business issues. And the U.S. Small Business Administration is for that purpose. We were founded in 1953 to help individuals either start small businesses, grow those small businesses, and make sure that they maintain that success. And the way that we do that is based off of what we call 3 C's. They are our capital programs, which is what we're going to talk about, one aspect of those. And these are loans that are available to help small businesses either start or grow, expand, purchase more equipment, purchase real estate, or just to use for working capital purposes. And these loans in our traditional programs are up to $5 million. What's really great about these programs is SBA is not the lender. We are the guarantor of the loan. So we are taking on the risk for the banking institution, which makes the banking institution more willing to lend to communities in small businesses that they probably traditionally wouldn't do. What's also great about our programs is we have a counseling portion. And the counseling portions are key because you have individuals who are interested in starting businesses but don't know how to. They may not have that professional advice to get started. They may not have the funding to go out and hire a consultant to coach them and mentor them and give them that advice to tell them what they need to do to get in business. So we have resource partners that we fund that help individuals navigate through the process of starting a business. Not only do they do that, but they also help individuals with advice on how to grow their business. If it's having access to high-end research to make them give better informed decisions on what they need to do to expand, what location they may need to look into that's better suitable for their industry of business. And all of these resource partners are offered at no cost. If you go out and hire a private consultant to coach you through those type of issues, it's going to cost you about $600 to $700 an hour. Again, these are your tax dollars at work for you to utilize. They're also important because 8 out of 10 small businesses fail within their first 18 months simply because they don't know what they're getting into and they're not getting that professional advice. So we want businesses to come to us and utilize these resource partners so they can be prepared as they look into entrepreneurship. We also have our contracting programs where if businesses are interested in expanding their businesses and they want to sell their product or service to federal agencies, we help them with that process. So we have various government certifications that give them access to $500 billion a year in goods and services purchases that the government buys. And what's great about that is the government is required by law to set aside 23% of that $500 billion specifically with small businesses. So SBA serves as the gatekeeper of that, where we're connecting small businesses with federal agencies and making sure that they have access to those 23% of set-asides that are available to small businesses. And then lastly, of course, are our disaster programs, which are what we're going to get into. So anytime during a disaster that's either declared by the President of the United States or the administrator of SBA, we come in behind FEMA and we help not only small businesses, but we also help nonprofits, homeowners, and renters in a time of a disaster where we're giving out either grants or loans to help them with the rebuilding. And it's not just physical injury loans that are for small businesses during a time of disaster, but we also help them economically with the ways that they are affected. And that's really the thing that we're experiencing right now. And we can talk more about those programs.
Yeah, and I know that the phone banks are really stressed out right now. During the hurricane disasters, Mr. Austin was telling me that there was around 250 or 300,000 people who were requesting loans and assistance. But during this pandemic, did he say it was 5.5 million initially?
Yeah, Clifton, yeah, absolutely. So we have 30 million small businesses in the United States. And if not all, a large population of those small businesses are hurting and are needing some type of assistance from the government, specifically the SBA, to help them with the recovery. So yes, we are seeing millions of loans being submitted through our economic injury disaster loan program. And yes, we are definitely wrapping up our hiring process to help with the loan processing period. We're looking to hire about 7,000 people nationally to help with the processing of those. And just coincidentally, that processing center is in Fort Worth, Texas, where we're processing those. But we're looking to hire more people to try to get the job done.
So really bringing jobs here. So you're currently accepting applications, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's another main thing. We are definitely looking for people that are interested in employment with the federal government on a temporary basis to fill several positions that we have open to help with this whole pandemic initiative, which is loan processors, paralegals, attorneys, customer service representatives. So it's a wealth of positions available. And you could go to SBA's disaster response jobs and find the whole listing of those jobs and how to apply if somebody's interested.
Okay. And I was just going to ask you, do you want to provide a phone number now, website where people can access these resources?
Yeah, so you just go to sba.gov and you will see the tab for the disaster assistance response jobs, and all those are listed. They're also listed on usajobs.com, and that's the government's way of accepting application for federal positions. Or you can call our district office, which is 817-684-5500, 817-684-5500, and they could give you information on how to access those opportunities.
Okay, great. Thank you, man. Now let's first talk about the economic income disaster loan. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
right?
economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL loan.
Okay, good. So yeah, let's talk about that first.
Yeah, so I mentioned how we have our disaster programs, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is a traditional program, a part of SBA's disaster response initiatives. And this program has been in place for a while. So when the whole pandemic started, the President of the United States declared a national disaster. Once that happened, $50 billion was automatically allocated towards small business recovery, where businesses who were in declared disaster areas, and we did declare all 50 states and territories as disasters. So businesses all across the United States had the ability to access this $50 billion in disaster relief funds. And these are working capital loans for businesses that have been affected economically due to COVID-19, which is just about every business in the United States. They are able to use these loans for utilities, payroll, and things like that. You are able to apply directly through SBA. This is the only time where SBA is the lender, is through our disaster loan programs. We are dispersing these loans directly from the U.S. Treasury. As a result, there's no application fee, there's no guarantee fees, there's no broker fees associated with these loans. But these loans are up to $2 billion with an interest rate of 3.75% for for-profits. And I also mentioned how we assist nonprofits. So nonprofits are able to take advantage of this program as well. And their interest rate is 2.75 over the course of the loan, the lifetime of the loan. And those loans can go up to 30 years depending on the repayment agreement that's determined by SBA for that business. The payments have been waived for 12 months. So a business who gets this loan do not have to worry about making their first payment until after 1 year of disbursement of the loan. And a new thing that's a part of the program was an advance. And the advance is a forgivable portion of the economic injury disaster loan. And the way that operates is you're able to get immediate $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. And that is for payroll costs. And those portions or proceeds are forgivable, ultimately, quote unquote, treated just like a grant. So that's the bulk of the economic injury disaster loan. It is closed right now to general businesses, but it is open for agricultural businesses simply because agricultural businesses didn't get the opportunity to apply during the first round. And traditionally, agricultural businesses would not qualify for the SBA's economic injury disaster loan programs because the U.S. Department of Agriculture have their own lending programs for that type of industry of business. But we have opened it up for the first time in the history of our loan programs to agricultural businesses. And also back to the nonprofits, for the first time in the history of this program as well, we are now opening up that we have opened up that loan program to faith-based institutions, which include houses of worship. So those are two entities that are now able to take advantage of SBA's disaster programs that didn't have that opportunity before.
Okay, so there was a couple of questions. Thank you for sharing that. There was a couple of questions that came out of our first part with Mr. Austin around this EIDL loan process. And one of the questions was around credit score, or your credit score, and whether that was a determining factor in being approved or not. And it is, but is there a range that is acceptable, or if your credit score is below a certain amount, you're going to get denied? What can you tell us about the acceptable credit score range?
Yeah, so I don't have any information on what that exact number is, but yes, credit is a factor in dealing with these loan programs simply because they are loans. So your repayment ability is key in being awarded any type of loan. So credit is definitely a factor. If a business was denied for whatever reasons, especially if credit was an issue, I recommend, and SBA recommends, them to submit a reconsideration and state how they are impacted by COVID-19 and what this loan would mean to their business as if they do decide to get the loan. So definitely submit the reconsideration if you were denied for any purpose, especially if it was due to the credit score.
So I'm not sure if everybody knew about the reconsideration process. So if you were denied, how do you process the reconsideration? Is there a form? Do you call a number? What do you do? Is it on the denial letter?
Yes, once you're denied, those instructions will be provided to you. But you're going to be submitting those. You can submit it via email, and you're going to submit it to the SBA's Disaster Center. And again, yeah, all those instructions will be in that denial information that's sent to the potential borrower, the applicant. Or they could call our district office again to get more information on what they need to do as they decide to submit the reconsider information.
Okay, so the other question around those lines is, there's a portion of this loan that is forgivable, and there's a portion that isn't. So there's some confusion around that. I think we cleared it up to where some people thought that they were going to get $10,000 initially, but no, The clarity is that this is only going to be $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. And some people were denied the actual loan, but they were thinking that they were going to get an advance, but they didn't get it. So what can you say about that? Is that advance something that they have to apply for as well, or can they get denied on that? And explain that to us.
Yeah, so the advanced portion is new, and that is the forgivable portion of the economic injury disaster loan, as we stated. So if a business did not receive the advanced portion and they applied, we need to figure out what may have happened. If it may have been some documentation issues, submittal issues on the portal. So we need to figure out what may have happened. So they could contact our district office again to try to see if we could find out what may have went down with that particular applicant. Or they could contact the SBA Disaster Customer Service, which is 1-800-659-2955, and speak with a customer service representative who will provide some information as well. But yes, you would typically apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, and then in that application process, it asks you, do you want to take advantage of the advance? And that's a option that you click. But regardless of the decision on the economic injury loan portion, you should have gotten an advance portion. Whether your loan was still in processing or whether your loan was denied, you still have the ability to take advantage of the advance portion. So we really want to figure out what may have happened to that business that didn't receive an advance.
So if they inadvertently did not request the advance portion, but they intended to, it's too bad, right? They can't go back and say, oh, I meant to click this dot. Is it too late for those people?
Yeah, that option has closed. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program has closed. So we are processing the applications that currently applied before it closed, and it's only opened up through the new round of funding for those agricultural concerns. What's going to happen in the future, we're not sure. It's possible that it will open up again for general businesses, and it's possible that it may open up again in advance. We just don't know what's going to happen in the future. So businesses should either sign up for our email updates, follow us on our local Twitter account at SBA DFW to figure out what updated information may come down as relates to the future of this program. But yes, that program has closed for general businesses.
Okay, so my question is going to be for the group of people who actually applied the first time around. So they're in the system. If they did not get the advanced loan, but the reason they didn't get it is because they intended to request it, but somehow in the application process, they did not request it, it's too late, right? They can't get the advanced loan anymore because they should have done something and they just inadvertently forgot to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, as the way the program stands, that seems like that is the case.
Okay.
Again, there was replenish of the program in the second round, but we don't know when that's going to open up for general businesses or not. So they may have that option during that round. We'll just have to see. But yeah, to answer your question, the way the program stands as of now, yes, that program is closed and those businesses cannot go back and make that adjustment.
All right, so then the second question along those lines, again, they've already submitted the process, they're in the system, but like in this situation, some people are getting their advanced loans, but if they got a denial letter, but they did not get their advanced loan, it's not too late then. As they inquire and find out what happened, if they should have gotten an advanced loan, they're probably going to get it anyway. Would you know generally?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I know that we are still paying out advances and we are still approving loans. So the process is still ongoing. But if a business wants to figure out what may be the hold up with their application, if there is a hold up, or if they just want to know what the status of their application is, the best thing to do is to contact that customer service center and figure out what may be the issue or what is the status of their application. They have access to the applications on that end. We unfortunately don't have access to the applications on our district level end, but we could try to guide them to how to get that information.
Okay, so if they got a denial letter, they should go ahead and resubmit for an appeal process or ask for some special consideration explaining why they need the loan. If they did not
Absolutely.
get the, if they
Absolutely.
did not get the advance, they should go ahead and contact the customer service number. And the customer service number is kind of swamped. Sometimes there's been some experiences where they've called into the number and the person didn't know what to tell them. Is there also an email or a different way they can contact customer service besides trying to get on the phone and get in touch with some representative? Is there an email to access?
The best way is to contact that customer service center. They're working every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We understand that it may get a little bit of backlog and you're not able to get in. So the best time to do is during the off-peak hours, which is before sometime very early in the morning or sometime very late in the afternoon, just before 8 p.m. obviously, where the lines are not as crowded. So they are answering the phones right now. I called a couple of days ago and got an answer on the first ring. So they are answering a lot more than what they were during the first portion of this pandemic.
And then this another past issue was sometimes when the expectation was to get a loan within a few days, but that was not considering that it may take a number of days before that loan can actually get into the system to be recorded. So people were calling the customer service number and asking about the status of the application, but the representative couldn't tell them because it wasn't really in the system yet. Has those kind of issues been resolved, or what should we communicate to the community if there's still some questions and they're calling into that number and they may not be getting the kind of answers that they are expecting?
Yeah, again, like we stated in the beginning of this conversation, there's millions of applications that SBA is receiving, and it's just taking time to try to process those as quickly as possible. So if you were calling the customer service center and you were getting information stating that your application is still processing and not getting very much information, my suggestion is to keep calling back. Keep calling back within a few days, every week, just to see if there is a different status update. But they are definitely working to try to process those loans. So keep calling that 1-800 customer service center to see what your status is, if that's something that you're really needing to know. But the way that the processing works is once you apply for the loan, you should get the advance first. The next step is your loan will be sent to your loan application for the actual loan will be sent to credit pool, where they will pull your credit. And then after that, it's sent to a loan processor for a analysis of the application. And then that loan processor makes a recommendation on an amount and approval or denial. And then it's sent to the legal department. And then once all that happens, then they send a correspondence to the potential applicant on what they have gathered, what their analysis is, and what their recommended amount is. The borrower has the opportunity to accept that. Once they accept that, then they're going to be directed to send in some various documentations and sign the loan. Then after that, they should be dispersed the loan within a couple of days, if that. So that's the way the process works.
Okay, so now the loan again can be used on any operating cost whatsoever, but you did say that the advance portion is supposed to be used for payroll. So are there some documentation requirements for the advance loan up to $10,000 that must be met in order for that to be forgivable?
Yeah, so SBA is going to request various documentations such as W-2s, financial statements, and things like that. And all of that information will be lined out once the loan processor corresponds with the applicant. And again, if this is a lot of information to digest for a business, especially a business who may not have experienced anything like this or may never have asked the government for any type of assistance. So another component that we're going to talk about later on is those resource partners. So utilize those resource partners to help you get your documentation together and help you get your documentation together effectively so that you can get it submitted to SBA with no issues and try to get that loan as quickly as possible.
Okay, so just to make sure that we're clear, the advance portion up to $10,000. So let's say I'm a sole proprietor. I applied for this loan because I needed some money to stay in business. I got denied, but at least I got $1,000 deposited into my checking account. because I was one employee and I got the advance portion. I am still required to provide some level of documentation to show that $1,000 was applied towards payroll, with hence paying me as a draw. So I still have to do
Yeah,
that.
sure. That's a possibility. SBA may come back and ask for verification documentation on what those proceeds were used for.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you have that documentation collected correctly.
All right, cool. But and now if I did get the loan, if I did get approved, so let's say it's still individual or a business, I applied for, let's say I've been approved for $15,000. I got an advance of $1,000. That $1,000 is forgivable, but the $14,000, which was the remaining balance of the loan that I was approved for, that $14,000 has to be paid back over a period of time.
Mhm.
That $14,000, I do not need to provide some documentation for, because I can use that on anything. Or are you saying that I might have to provide documentation for that $14,000 loan as well?
Yes, sir, absolutely. The economic injury disaster loan is for working capital. Those are operating costs, so it's very specific on what you could use these loan proceeds for. You can't use them to expand your business. So you have to, it is a very much so a possibility that SBA will come back and ask you for verification of how those proceeds were utilized.
So what's very important now, regardless of how you were taking care of your finances before this pandemic, is that you have adequate records of how you're taking care or how you're spending this money. Some people suggest that you open up a separate bank account so that you keep all the financial transactions clear. But regardless of what you do, it's just very important that you document every dollar that you spend if you're getting any kind of
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, cool. Is there anything else that we need to know about the EIDL loan before we talk about the PPP program?
I think that's the gist of it. The program is working. We are dispersing those loans. I've known several businesses who have gotten both the advance and the actual loans. So we are working to process those loans. So if you are interested in figure out what the status, if you haven't received it, definitely reach out to the customer service center and figure out what may have happened, or our SBA district office.
And I would say practice a little bit of patience, because everybody's doing the best they can. Nobody's holding on to your money, trying not to do it. You just said that you guys are hiring, was it 7,000 employees for the call center?
Yes, sir.
And I don't know how many you have now. Do you know roughly how much your staff today?
I'm not sure what the actual number is today, but I know on calls that we've had in the past that they were looking to hire 7,000 across the country to help support the processing of these loans.
And these people need to be trained as well. So again, just practice a little bit of patience as you're going through this, because you guys are we're trying to help each other get through this. So just be patient, continue to call in if you weren't successful getting the information that you needed before. Be kind to people, right? Because nobody's just continually waking up just to try to hold on to your money. But so practice a little bit of patience, as I said. Now, talk about the PPP program, which is still has funds to give out, right?
Yes, so the Paycheck Protection Program, which is the newest program, the program that's the most popular that you've been hearing about all over the news. The Paycheck Protection Program was created during the first CARES package that was about 2.2 trillion passed by Congress. 349 billion of that was allocated for small businesses under the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. As we saw, those first round of funds did run out quite quickly. As a result, Congress came back and approved a second round of funding of about 310 billion for small businesses. And we still have funding available as of today for that program. And I encourage small businesses to take advantage of it. And if you apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program and you've gotten an advance or you've gotten a loan, you still can take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program. And I encourage you to do so. So unlike the EIDL loan, where you apply directly through SBA, the Paycheck Protection Program, you apply through a banking institution. And Clifton, I could share with you a list of 32 banking institutions that are right here in the area that are doing loans to new customers. It's recommended that you utilize a banking institution that you already have a relationship with, but that's not required. These 32 banks that I'm gonna send you a list of are right here in the DFW area that have committed to doing SBA Paycheck Protection Program loans to new clients, which means they don't have to have that already relationship established. So these loans are up to 10 million, and they are for the sole purpose of what the name is, paycheck. So the main bulk of this program is the forgivable portion. And that's what I want every small business to pay attention to, is because you want to be able to get access to these funds and not have to pay it back. So if you utilize at least 75% of these loan proceeds for payroll, either bringing employees back that you've had to lay off or keeping your employees on for a course of 8 weeks, then that portion of the loan will be forgiven. The second forgivable portion is the operating costs. So if you utilize no more than 25% for payroll, utilities, rent, transportation costs, telephone bill, electric bill, internet access, all those are utility costs or operating costs. If you use no more than 25% for that purpose, then that's a potentially forgivable portion as well. So both of those scenarios at 75 plus 25, that's a potentially 100% forgivable loan. And that's what you want out of this program, is the ability not to have to pay it back. These loans are with a 1% interest rate if it has to go that route, but they're 100% guaranteed by SBA. And the banking institutions are utilizing their funds to disperse them. So if a business is interested in applying, contact one of those banking institutions. A good thing and a strategy to try to make sure that you get access to these funds is you have the ability to apply at multiple banking institutions. And I encourage that. Don't just apply at one, apply at several. And the way that that works is the first application that SBA receives is the application that we're going to go with. The other ones will just get rejected. But it does give you the opportunity to try to get in there and be a part of that first come, first serve group of businesses to get access to these funds.
So the benefit of applying in multiple banks is to why apply to more than one bank?
Yeah, so as you saw, as we saw on the first round, a lot of applications were pushed through by a lot of the large banking institutions. And as a result, SBA has mitigated that to where only certain large bank institutions can submit applications at a certain time. But the funds are accessed as a first come, first served basis. So you want to make every effort and get every opportunity to try to get access to these funds. So applying at multiple institutions gives you that opportunity, simply because every banking institution have their own way of processing these loan applications. One banking institution may be faster than the other. One banking institution may have less applications than others. So applying at different institutions just increases your chances at trying to get access to these funds.
Okay, so what about organizations like Lift Fund, People Fund, or these micro loan organizations? Are they a place that will take a PPP application?
Absolutely, and there's actually news today for institutions like this. So those are our community lending banks. And today, SBA issued a press release where we're setting aside the final $60 billion of Paycheck Protection Programs specifically for institutions like those. So they are doing PPP loans. I encourage you to utilize those loans. They are in our underserved communities targeting businesses to do those loans. So as of today, again, we are set aside the final $60 billion in Paycheck Protection Program loans, specifically for banking institutions like Lift Fund, BCL Texas, and People Fund.
So, and the difference between applying through those community lending partners versus a bank like Comerica Bank is what? I mean, you're still getting the money from the same pool, right? Mm-hmm. The difference might be accessibility, because there's some neighborhoods that may not have access to some of the big banks for some reason, and then they're going to go ahead and apply through these community lending organizations.
Right, and yeah, exactly. And it's the final 10 billion, I'm sorry, not 60, final 10 billion is set aside for those institutions. But yeah, it's a matter of access. These are some of the smaller institutions, and they may not have as many applications as the larger institutions, and they are targeting our underserved communities. That's the mission of these institutions in order to receive funding from SBA is to target our underserved markets. So they are definitely good for businesses to utilize, especially if they're in our underserved community.
Okay, so here's the thing. So if you have not applied for a PPP loan, whether you've applied for the EIDL loan or not, the PPP loan program still has money. You should apply. You should apply to multiple banks because it's all about first come, first serve. So if you apply with a bank that you have a relationship with, that bank might be processing loans at a certain rate. But then if you go to a community lending bank or a partner, they may have not that many loans to process, and that loan process might get funded quicker. So do multiple banks. And one of the challenges I've heard of before is that the documentation is more streamlined with the PPP loan versus the EIDL loan. But still understanding what documentation is required is not really clear. So can you give us some guidelines on what's really expected when you apply for the PPP loan so that people have some clarity around that?
Yeah, so right now it's the standard application that you can view on SBA's website, sba.gov, and then whatever mechanisms the banking institution has for their institution. Obviously, they may have some certain standards that they're putting in place for this program. But the documentation portion is going to come a part of the forgivable rule, basically. So whenever we receive guidance on what's going to be required to receive the forgiveness of the loan is where the documentation is going to come into place. So we don't have the guidance on that as of today, but we anticipate having that soon. But again, maintain your documentation. You mentioned that there's advice out there to get separate business accounts. I think that is an ideal suggestion, is to get separate business accounts to show that how you're accounting for these different loan programs, primarily a paycheck protection program, and how you're using it towards your payroll over the course of 8 weeks, what operating costs you're going to be accounting for paycheck protection as well. So maintaining your documentation, your financials, work with those resource partners to make sure that you're doing it correctly. But we don't have the actual guidance on what's going to be required to verify those proceeds as it relates to the forgivable portion as of yet. And once we get that, we'd love to come back on your show and explain what those requirements are going to be.
Okay, so let's first talk about the documentation that's required when you're applying for a PPP loan. I know there's 4 general categories. One of the things that they're looking for is just a government ID or something to identify who you are as an individual so that they know who they're dealing with. So that should be pretty simple. It's a passport, driver's license, whatever documentation to identify who you are. The second thing that they asked for was something that identifies your type of business. So if you've created an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, you have your formation papers, but if you're a sole proprietor, you may not have anything. So there's a list of documents that can identify who you are. If you're doing business, if you have a DBA, you should have, for the county that you've registered your name, there should be a document that talks about you being the 100% owner or what percentage owner you are of your entity. So that was the second piece, to identify that you're the owner of the company. The third piece was to identify and document the type of income to calculate the 2.5 months of average income that you're getting a check for. So they were asking for either, if you're a sole proprietor, a 1099 or your Schedule C, or some other payroll documentation if you're a legal entity and you're processing payroll through a payroll company. And then lastly, they were asking for something to indicate that you were still in business as of February 15th of 2020. So those were like 4 categories of documentation that was required, but there was a lot of confusion because people weren't used to going through this process. Is there a website or some place to go to easily identify the different types of documentation that's required for this PPP loan?
Yeah, so they can go to SBA.gov and go to our lending programs, or they can contact, if they want to talk to a live person, contact our district office. We are there as a source. If they really want some detailed guidance, work with those resource partners who can identify what those documentations are and how you can gather those documentations and what you may need to put in your application to make sure that you're taking advantage fully of this program, because we want to make sure that you are accounting for everything possible for this program and make sure that you're getting every dollar or cent that's owed to you for this program. So those are the three resources that you could go to get assistance on what those documentations are and how to navigate those documentations.
And then I would say, don't be concerned about the documentation for forgiveness. If you just document every transaction and everything you spend your money on, keep some kind of receipts, keep some kind of reports, keep some kind of ledger that identifies where this money is spent, then you should be able to go back once the SBA has identified the documentation requirements for the forgiveness. You should be able to provide something to show where this money was spent. One of the other areas of confusion is, you said that if you've applied for the EDI or EIDL loan and you should apply for the PPP. I heard that there is some type of overlapping to where you can't use the money for the same purpose. An example would be this: if you use the money for the EIDL loan for payroll, then you can't use the PPP for payroll because it's a double counting. Is that true?
So it's kind of true. You're on the right track. However, you can't use both loans for the same scenario. For instance, you can use both for payroll, but you can't use them for payroll at the same time. So for instance, if you utilize the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program for payroll for a certain group of employees in April, then you cannot use the Paycheck Protection Program for that same group of employees in April. But you could use it for a different set of group of employees in April, or just use it for payroll in May or another month. So you just can't use it for the exact same scenario.
Okay, what about some of the operating costs? So you said that the PPP loan can be forgiven if you use it at around 25% for either lease payments, interest payments, or utility bills. It just cannot be, you can't duplicate, right? You can't be using the PPP loan to pay for the same bills that you said you're using the economic injury disaster loan for. And then, but you can use it for a different period of time, right?
Correct.
All right.
Correct. Exactly. Just not the same scenario. You're right on track.
And that goes back to where really making sure that you're documenting what you're spending this money on, because you can't pay a utility bill twice. So if you're paying a utility bill with the EIDL loan, then that utility bill cannot be paid with a PPP loan. It has to be a different period of time. That makes sense.
Correct.
That makes sense. Okay, so again, there's probably a lot of confusion still, even after we do this kind of show. Yes. There's a lot of articles out there, but you said that you have resource partners that can really help. So let's talk about those resource partners and how people should go to them, which ones they should go to, whether they should go to, should they really go to SCORE, or should they go to the Small Business Development Center, or should they go to the Women's Business Center? How do they decide where to go to get some assistance on additional questions and documentation?
Yeah, exactly. So we have resource partners that are available to help navigate through this process. Again, we fund those services, which are funded by your tax dollars, and they are all throughout the country, all throughout the United States. And the way that you can find your local resource partner is to go to sba.gov/local-assistance and type in your zip code, and all of your local resource partners are put up in your community. But the 4 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area are SCORE, which are retired executives that either have been in business or currently run businesses that are really there to help coach individuals that are new businesses. So they're able to help you with your business plan. They can help you with your financials. They can help you get your LLC established, tell you what's the best structure for your type of industry or business. So they're really there geared toward those new businesses. Then we have our Small Business Development Centers, or SBDCs. We have about 13 centers in my 72 county territory that we cover. That's a part of the North Texas Small Business Development Center network. And we have a Small Business Development Center that covers Dallas County, which is called the Metropolitan Small Business Development Center, which is headquartered at the Bill J. Priest Institute, just south of downtown Dallas. We also have a Tarrant Small Business Development Center that's connected to a Tarrant County College district. We also have a Collins Small Business Development Center, and we have a Navarro Small Business Development Center. So these are the ones that are in our close proximity of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And they are there as a professional business advising component for individuals who are in business that are looking to take their business to the next level. So they have access to high-end databases that can really inform you on making decisions about your business. Most importantly, they are trained to help individual businesses navigate going forward throughout this whole pandemic, how to appropriately adjust your business going forward. As we know, there's going to be a new norm as it relates to being an entrepreneur, and they are there to advise you how to cope with the change and how to adjust your business for the change. They are there to help you with this whole application process with these programs. We know that this is new to a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses did not have the word pandemic in their business plans, so they just weren't simply prepared for this. And these Small Business Development Center advisors can help you be prepared for the future and help you navigate through these various application processes as they decide to seek funding from the government to help them overcome the issues that they're facing. Then we have women's business centers. So our women's business center is new to the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And it's obviously there to help those women entrepreneurs with any issues that they may be facing. And then lastly, we have our Veterans Business Outreach Center, which is at the University of Texas at Arlington, UTA, that houses our VBOC. And they are there, obviously, to help our veteran entrepreneurs and those that are connected to veteran entrepreneurs.
Okay, so for example, the Small Business Development Center, it sounds like that's the place you need to go if you really want some hands-on consulting around how do you take your business and pivot because of the pandemic, or if you need some help in applying or documenting your activity or how you're spending this money to be reimbursed or even applying for something. It doesn't sound like SCORE might be the place to go, right?
You know, it really depends. They both are assisting businesses throughout this process. And I've seen encounters personally how they've helped businesses. Both entities have helped businesses, but they both are equipped with helping businesses that are looking to navigate through this particular this process. If it's the application process or if it's just getting advice on how to navigate. Typically, SCORE has been ideal for those new businesses, but they are ready and willing to help businesses navigate through this whole pandemic process. And of course, our SBCs as well.
Okay, good. So, man, what kind of things are you hearing about that you feel is important for the community to know? Because I know you're on the front line. So tell your department, you have people that are out there in the community providing some direction and advice, right? How many people do you manage within your economic?
Yeah, so I have a team of economic development specialists. So I'm the lead economic development specialist, and that's like our marketing end of the district office. So I essentially serve as the chief of the marketing and outreach division. And that whole division is tasked with going out in our 72 counties and working with our stakeholders, our partners, our small business community, our elected officials, our media outlets, and really talking about SBA's programs and services. So marketing these particular programs to these various stakeholders. And that's what they do on a day in and day out basis. My team spends about 90% of their time doing just that. I spend about 60% of my time doing the exact same thing. So we're in close contact with those chambers of commerce. We're in close contact with those economic development directors, economic development corporations, those municipal governments, and other key stakeholders of business associations, and really promoting SBA programs and services. So we're doing what we're doing right now, what you and I are doing, we're doing that on a consistent basis. And we do those day in and day out on a regular basis, and more so during this whole pandemic.
Well, man, I would just say, and you were telling me now that most of you guys are you're working from home for a period of time. Are people going back into the offices right now, or How are you guys working and getting the job done if you have to be out there in the community like this?
Yeah, so we have a good deal of employees that are still working at the office. My team and I are working remotely, or what we call telework.
Hmm.
And that's what we do traditionally, is not spend as much time in the office because we are that marketing and we're out in the community. That's what we do. But yeah, there are a team of people that are still there. Our government contracting team is still there. Our lending team is still there, who works with our lenders, their banking institutions, with all of these programs, primarily with the Paycheck Protection Program. So they're all still in the office. And of course, our leadership, who you know, Mr. Austin, who's our director, and our deputy district director, Elsie Collins, are all still in the office, managing the office and the day-to-day operation of it.
Well, all of the stuff that we talked about, the additional resources and links are going to be in the description on the bottom of this YouTube video. So I would just say, get the word out, share it. Don't keep this information to yourself. I want to thank you for spending the time with us on the Empower Series Online. We've kind of pivoted our organization to be 100% virtual, because prior to that, we were always doing workshops on the third Saturday of every month at the Highland Hills Library. We were doing a lunch and learn at the Meadows Conference Center the Friday before, and we had just expanded last year to Houston, doing these programs at the Houston Area Urban League in the 3rd Ward on the 2nd Saturday of each month. And so we were partnering with other organizations like yours, the SBA, or New York Life, definitely Comerica Bank, and other service providers, to let people know of all of the resources that are out there. And these are free resources. Hence, we were doing this at the library, which is an underutilized resource. And we were doing that on a regular basis, and we were just looking at expanding to other states before this pandemic happened. But us going virtual gives us a broader reach. Now we're kind of global, and we're international now, it could be. But again, I want to thank you for taking the time and giving us this information and doing what you do. So thank you, man, for that.
Well, thank you. It is platforms like yours that are key during this whole situation. And we depend on platforms like yours to get the information out and get the most accurate and up-to-date information out. We understand that there's a lot of misinformation circulating, and it's really confusing people even more than what they are already confused. So we appreciate platforms like yours and you allowing us to come on and share this information, which is very important to our economy, most importantly to our small business owners.
Well, definitely, we don't want to give up hope. Why don't you give us the 800 number and the website again for people to call into if they have any other questions?
Sure. So the 1-800 customer service center for our disaster office is 1-800-659-2955. You can also contact our Dallas-Fort Worth district office at 817-684-5500. And our website is sba.gov. And all of our disaster programs are listed on that. Our traditional programs are listed, and our resource partners are listed on that website as well. If you have a Twitter account, follow our SBA DFW Twitter at SBA DFW, where we're constantly posting updates to these programs and any new information that we receive. And of course, out of our traditional activity that we have going on right here in the DFW district.
Yeah, because things are changing all the time. And like you said, the actual documentation requirements for the forgiveness portion is evolving as we speak. So it's not like, what we know today is all we're going to know. Things are always going to be updated. So stay connected with us. Stay connected on our social media. We have a Facebook page. We have a company page on LinkedIn. Hence, you're on our YouTube channel. So if you're on our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, share, give comments, ask questions. Any comments that you provide will be responded to. So if you have a question and we don't have the answer, we'll tap into the resource where we can get to the resource. We have a Twitter account as well as Instagram. Whatever your social media flavor is, stay connected with us. So the Empower series is here to give you hope, inspiration, education, and connection to resources. And we hope that what we've given you today is some ideas that you can take action on. So don't keep it to yourself. Definitely reach out. Be safe, be healthy, and until we meet again, I would like everybody to be inspired to thrive. So thank you, Comerica Bank. Thank you, AE Media Group. Thank you for joining in. If you want to get more information about the Empower series, go to our website. which is www.empowerseries.com. On there, you can see our upcoming events, some information about us, as well as if you want to make a donation, you can hit the donation button. If you want to give a donation via a text and a secure link, you can text give or donate to 214-225-6337. And that way you can get a secure link and make a donation from that standpoint. And Ahmad, I want to thank you again, brother. You know, you are out there doing a service to our community, and small businesses need your resources. So I would say go to the website, go to the 1-800 number, and you too, brother, be safe, okay, out there.
Likewise, thank you again.
Thank you for watching our Empower Series YouTube video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little button to be notified the next time we upload our video. Until then, stay connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media flavor is. Inspire the world to thrive. See you soon.